Hello, everyone. Good morning to everybody, and welcome to American Scouser's morning coffee with or tea. But this morning, as always, it's coffee. I don't know if you guys can see it, but this just in. Fun fact: I am the greatest dad right here. We've got the greatest dad. Mugs don't lie, people. So we are back after we talked about it yesterday. We kind of projected it with Gally. Gally had the conspiracy theories, and hey, actually, maybe the conspiracy theories that we predicted didn't come through, but there's some like weird ones like Lewandowski going back to Dortmund and going back to Bayern. There's Holland playing Dortmund, so there's like a couple of things over there that makes you go But overall, I personally think for us it was a pretty darn good group. I mean, especially for the A part. I'm not big on Napoli. We're going to take it like a quick peek at them this morning to see who's done what in the offseason. They are not really the teams that we saw last year. We're not going to be facing the team. I mean, everybody obviously, when we hear the names, we're like, we remember Napoli because we freaking play them every year. We remember, we know Ajax. We've seen what they've done in the past, and obviously, most people, I think, probably are familiar with Rangers as well. At least a lot of their players. Alan is with us this morning. Good morning, Alan. So obviously, it's Ajax, Napoli, and Rangers. In terms of travel, it's probably ideal. Rangers, we talked about yesterday, that was a team that we would rather not see, just because we knew the away game would be tough. Here's the thing: the team, at least for Liverpool, or heck, at least I hope, who faces Rangers is not going to be the one that faced Fulham with no intensity and kind of like caught on their heels all the time. Hoping if we go back to more of the Liverpool of old and our identity, which is intensity, I think it's not going to be as big of a problem because the quality on the field, I think, will speak for itself. A couple of the players we're familiar with, so we'll kind of like touch up on that. So let's start with Ajax. I think I went for AC Milan yesterday. Just like a gut feeling. But I mean, ideally, I think we want a Porto, right? I mean, it's like a team that we have the easier time with style wise. But Ajax is not too shabby either. They have lost a lot of players. So I mean, if we look right now, let me pull it up on the screen right here. I mean, obviously, the shortest center back of all time, Lisandro Martinez, is gone, but he was a key player for them. I mean, hence he came to United for that fee you see there, like over 60 million. Sebastian Haller, obviously, he suffered the injury, actually not the injury, but the illness afterwards, and he is out now. But he was a key player for them. And then you have like Gravenberch. So if you look at those, they're lost a key player from every line in terms of defense, midfield, and attacking. So I think that's the biggest thing right there is what they have lost. They have replaced it with Bergwijn, obviously, from Tottenham going there. They did get Calvin Bassett, basically replaced for the most part Martinez. But hey, that works. Who's a very good player? I think it's going to be one of those players that's, Ajax does not spend money very easily. It's one of those deals where they spent the 25 knowing they're probably going to get back 50, 60 in a year or two over here, similar to what they did with Lisandro Martinez. But their gain is also our gain in some ways, I guess, because we're not going to face them when we play Rangers now. We're just going to face them when we play Ajax. So they have not really replayed. But here's the thing, right? I mean, this is what Ajax does. They sell players and they rarely skip a beat because they have somebody already in the works who can just come in and fill in and do the same job. I mean, it's their youth system, it's their progression. It's just what they do. So you still expect to see a good Ajax team. I guess my thing more is the fact that it could have been a lot worse in terms of what we could possibly get. Like PSG or Real or Bayern or somebody like that. I thought Ajax was a good one overall. Second team is Napoli, which, like I said, we are for the most part familiar with, but they have gone some changes as well. So let's take a look at their off season real quick. Here we go. Um, in terms of loss, they've gotten younger. I guess that's probably like the biggest thing, like the biggest change you're gonna see in them. They moved Koulibaly to Chelsea, and they have also like the team that we're more used to seeing with Milik, Mertens, and Insigne. Those players have all moved on, so they're not the same time, but they have gotten younger overall. So if you look at I was actually when I was looking this morning, I'm like, man, I know a lot of people that are like have moved around over here. Their biggest signing is Kim from Fenerbahce, who's a Korean center back. Dude is a beast. I think that has been great business for Napoli because they have replaced Koulibaly with a much younger version. Because like dude is only 25, and having seen him in Fenerbahce week in and week out, he is a beast. He has the size. The only thing he has in him, and this could play in our favor, is the rash challenge. Sometimes he tries to use his body and like shoulders people in the box who can eventually end up being a penalty and stuff like that. Has kind of like suffered some instances like that for Fenerbahce, like a red card and stuff like that, because he was the last player. But definitely a ton of speed to keep up with. Otherwise, like I say, overall, it's a team that has gotten younger than what we faced. And there are rumors actually this morning about perhaps Ronaldo headed over there as well. Speaking of headed over here and over there, Gally is with us. Man, you wake up early these days. This is great to see. How's it going this morning?
I'm doing good, man. The 8 to 9 sales roll call holds you from being here at 8:59, but I can clearly get here by 9:05. So, yeah, all I got to do is change my shirt and rock and roll. So, what an exciting day, right? We get to review the Champions League groups and some of our predictions from yesterday morning.
Yeah, I was talking about that earlier about like maybe your conspiracy theories did not all come to fruition, but there were some matchups that made you go, things that make you go kind of deal, where like Lewandowski, Holland playing their old teams. They're like some storylines. I guess looking at this, there's so many people moving around that you can have some storylines either way, but yeah, those are some big ones that kind of turned the night. So I was going through like team by team. We kind of like touched up on Ajax. I don't know if you have like anything to say about like Ajax in terms of like what has changed for them, because we were looking at it just now in terms of like who they have lost, and they have lost a key player in defense. They have lost a key player in midfield, and they have lost a key player in attack. But it is Ajax. They just
that's what I was gonna say. Ajax loses. It feels like Ajax loses 5 players that can't be replaced every year. And then the next year, the 3 guys who replace 3 of those 5, they become 3 of the 5 that can't be replaced, and just keep churning out talent. Ajax was doing everything they could to hold on to Anthony. I think they really wanted to have him for one more year. And I think I think that's a nerve-wracking one for them, because they were kind of building their offense around him staying and being the focal point of it. And if he ends up getting his move to United, like it looks like he will, then they could be scrambling a little bit to go back into the market at a time that is, a little late. And it's not like they have the buying power to go, get an Osama from Napoli or go get a big time name player. They need a young kid on the up. So I think that could be tough. They're going to struggle to replace Sebastian Haller. Gosh forbid, with everything that happened to him, they would have lost him anyways, even if they hadn't sold him. But he did amazing with the consistency in what he did for that side last year, especially in Europe. So it'll be interesting to me to see where they go. I feel like that was kind of a win out of pot 1, to be honest. I would have rathered others. Yeah,
I mean, compared to what it could have been, it was just like, yeah. I mean, I think we talked. I mean, I think we like both were like Porto, just because of familiarity and familiarity of beating them, I guess, more than familiarity of the team, just a familiarity of constantly beating them. But I mean, out of that pot, I think it's as good as it can get, really. I mean, you're not gonna. I mean, out of a pot A, you're never gonna have like a dud. So you're gonna have a solid team. But out of all the teams that could have been like PSG, Real, Bayern, I mean, I think it's a pretty darn good one.
Yeah, I agree. The other part that I think is,
You got a
as
candle
far as
burning there, man. It looks like
so
there's a.
I don't know what it is. I actually I saw your message. I was trying to fix it. I think what it actually is that my camera has some type of like self-correcting light, and if I lean too far back or forward, it's actually my computer, not the actual lights for my screen, which is odd. But this
It looks like you got
happens
like
when
somebody holding a candle in front of you.
listen. It's the effervescent glow that you get by having me to grace your
Must be a
appearance here
Friday.
in the
Thank
morning.
God it's Friday. Okay.
It is Friday, thank goodness. So we'll survive. And if I give anyone a seizure, I'll apologize in advance. Hit the life button or dial 911 or just put it in the chat and we'll call for you. But the first group, obviously, that Ajax, I think I heard you were going through Napoli. I had mentioned that I just felt like we would get Napoli because we always get an Italian side, and I never feel good about it. But Napoli has really struggled as well with losing some players and big players. I do agree with you very much. I think that the center back that they got from Turkey is a big time talent. And I know that there were other clubs trying to kind of pip them to that signing. But as soon as he knew he was replacing Koulibaly, he knew he was going to a Champions League side and going to be an automatic starter. Yeah. So it was a no-brainer for me that he moves to Serie A. And I think he'll do great there, by the way. The league is almost built for his skill sets, other than the rash challenge. But that's every center back kind of worth their weight in salt out there, right?
I think the way he goes into some challenges is the issue there. Like he'll try to shoulder people, and if you're a smart player, like I can see him. Like the moment I saw Napoli, and I was like, oh, I can see him kind of like shouldering. Too bad Mo doesn't get most of those calls, but I could see him trying to like shoulder Mo off the ball and kind of like do it in a way where it ends up being a foul, because I think that's what he does. And the dude is so big that when he tries to do that sometimes, and the player he's doing to is much smaller, he almost like there's no shoulder for him to make contact with. So he just like ends up looking like he's actually going shoulder to shoulder. It looks like he's pummeling the guy. So he's given some penalties, some like he's gotten the red card because of it, because he was the last player and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, his recovery pace and positioning in the air, I mean, that was probably an extremely smart move for them, selling Koulibaly for basically more than twice what they got this guy for. And honestly, Fenerbahce probably, if they were smarter, could have gotten a lot more for this guy. This was basically his release clause. They were a bunch of French teams after him, but they were giving Fenerbahce just below. They were probably kicking themselves in the ass because they were giving Fenerbahce a little below the asking price, like the release clause. And Napoli came in and said, "Hey, man, we just sold somebody. So what is the release clause? Where you go? We're taking
exactly
that." Basically what they did. So.
I saw the Ronaldo reports. I think people just basically track his agent's planes at this point, and if it flies into a city, they just assume they're negotiating to get Ronaldo out.
Probably want some pizza or something.
End of the day, I still feel like September 2nd, Ronaldo will be at United, and he'll give some bullshit speech through 5 different social media people, and it'll basically say, I never wanted to leave here. It was all paper driven. You never heard me say I didn't want to play for United. I'm United till I die. We're going to win the league. You know how he is. Like, he's just going to say all the right things, but for 3.5 weeks, he's been saying all the right things to get the fuck out. And now it's, he needs to basically have his cake and eat it too. But it'll be interesting to see what they do, because they were a better side before he was introduced against us, and we became more attacking and had more chances as soon as they brought him in. So it'll be interesting to me to see how United handles that. But I'm not so worried about Napoli. And then, of course, we'll get to pot 4, and, the powers that be wanted it.
Let's get to those guys. So, I mean, the people they've lost, obviously, I was talking about it earlier. Calvin Bassett, who's a really good player, we get away from facing him here. We're just facing him in Ajax instead. But that's in some ways opens up a huge goal. So they fill it with somebody invisible to Liverpool fans. We're gonna see if he is for real, if he's a real human being in Ben Davies. Rıdvan Yılmaz, also obviously Turkish, so I'm familiar with him. Very good attacking left back. He is the Turkish version of Alberto Moreno in terms of very good going forward, but kind of like a really tiny, small dude that can get beaten really fast. Like I can see Mo having a good time with him, just because even though he has the pace, he does not have the strength that, for example, Mo has.
Yeah, I mean, listen, let's be honest, right? It is an amazing accomplishment for Rangers to qualify for the group stages, and the fact that Celtic is also there, must make the Scottish Premier League feel very good about themselves, that they're starting to step back into like competitive levels in Europe. They're going to be playing for as many draws and maybe to steal a match, like when a softer Napoli shows up to Ibrox and is like, what in the hell is this, right? Their goal in this should be to get into the Europa League and see if they can't make another deep run. So I actually worry less about them in like the fourth, coming out of the fourth pot, than say like that Sheriff side last year that actually tried to play a little football and then got some confidence. And I mean, went and took it to Real Madrid and tried to win a match there. You mentioned Copenhagen yesterday. I watched some of them. They look like a footballing side that is just in a lower division. I think they could compete in the championship. I think they would win the Scottish League, to be honest. So like I put them at a higher level of quality. So I'm going to love the drama, and I'm going to love the scenes of both Rangers supporters being at Anfield and going crazy, and watching what it's like when we travel up to the Ibrox. But it's not going to be easy. They're going to be two brutal matches. For me, this draw screams get 9 points at home. Get 9 points at home, and I think you win this group. But I think you start dropping home matches, you might need some help, because I think Ajax is going to be solid and Napoli will take points off people. And Rangers is literally just an absolute wild card, because they could beat you 2-1, hitting you twice on the counter, or they could literally lose 7-0, finishing the match with 8 players and no one in the stands.
I think that's one of those things. Yeah, like Rangers is going to either hang in there for dear life or get demoralized early, and you're gonna have an easy time with them. The thing I like about the group overall, aside from obviously like the pot A part of it, is you can see Ajax and Napoli kind of like taking points from each other, especially when they're home. You can see them struggling as well when they go to Rangers. It's going to be more something that they're not used to. And so it's going to be an interesting ordeal. And I think you're probably right. Like 9-10 points probably does the deal over here. Hey, we were in freaking group of death last year, and we kind of like somehow cruised through that thing. So I'm not too worried in terms of advancing, unless, I mean, we'll talk about it like as we leave today, but we get the old boys back. I mean, at the current stage of what we've seen, God knows. But I think we know what we normally get from this team, and with the injured people from injuries coming back, I think this should be a group that Liverpool can handle and go as number one. Before we leave the Champions League talk, I mean, Group B obviously ended up being easier. I think any group that had Porto on top was going to be easier, but like Group B and Group D, I see groups where anything can happen. It's just going to be a lot of interesting matches, probably groups that are better, to be honest, like to watch, as opposed to, I don't know, like Chelsea's group, where they're going to be like, who are they? Milan beating up on Zagreb the same week that Chelsea is beating up on Salzburg or something like that. But what do you say about Group C and Group G? What, Bayern, Barcelona, Inter, and the poor Victoria Pilsen thrown in there, and then City's group with Sevilla, Dortmund, and Copenhagen? Seems to be like the toughest groups.
I'd probably say, obviously, with City, if City had gotten a tougher draw out of Group 2, if they hadn't pulled Sevilla in the second pot, I actually think that they would have had the toughest. Not that I know much about Victoria Pills, but it is a travel match. You got to do some travel for that, so it doesn't make it easy for any of the clubs that go there. Dortmund is one of the hardest places in Europe to play. So if they get up for a night against City and they can score a goal or two, you got the big brick wall, the big yellow wall behind the net. That can be, imposing on an opponent. So I think City actually has, and listen, Sevilla has showed some great signs and has some European pedigree. Do I still think City's going to walk through that group? I do, and I think they'll finish top of that group. The other group with Bayern, Barcelona, and Inter, I think is extremely competitive. And who's the fourth one? Are they the one with Victoria Pilsen?
Victoria Pilsen is the fourth one. Copenhagen is the one in City's group.
Oh, so that was where I was going. Copenhagen is the toughest, as we talked about yesterday, fourth pot. Dortmund might have been the toughest in the third pot. So City really got themselves into a little bit more of a pickle than they normally do. When it comes to that other one, it all comes down to what Barcelona is by the time the Champions League starts. Is Xavi starting to turn things around with them? Because I believe Bayern will get out of that group, but I've seen Bayern struggle in Europe. It's one thing playing in Germany and beating everybody 7-0. And then you get to Europe and you have to travel. They're going to have to go to the San Siro. They're going to have to go to the Camp Nou. And I think it is going to be a lot of pressure on Lewandowski for Barcelona when he has to play at Bayern. Once again, we might not have gotten Sadio Mane with the cold ball automatically picked against Liverpool, but they made sure that they got Barcelona Bayern Munich, which was by no means a non-stretch. The only thing that shocks me is how Tottenham didn't end up with a matchup against Inter Milan, so Conte could just lose his mind at the San Siro celebrating goals and like running down the touchlines. That would have been perfect actually if either Conte actually could have played AC Milan, Juventus, or Inter.
I was gonna say it's easy to come up with a storyline for Conte because he's been around
everybody. But I do think Bayern gets through that group, and I think it'll be tougher. That's a group where I think we could come down to match day 6, and literally any one of the three between Inter, Bayern, and Barcelona could win the group, advance on a draw. Like, I think that one could be a really, really exciting one because I feel bad for Victoria Pills, but I think they're probably going to finish that group with 0 points because I think the other teams are going to know they need 6 against that club to assure, their advancement to the knockout stages. So,
yeah, that's why I think, there are some like interesting groups to kind of like keep an eye on where you don't know what's going to happen. Like those two groups I mentioned, just because everybody like the Tottenham's group seems easy on paper, but there's a reason why all these teams are in the Champions League and, they all pose some kind of a danger. So it's going to be interesting to see those. The whole, that's probably the toughest group, I would say. That's why I asked you about that one with Bayern and Barcelona, Inter, because Inter is always going to be Inter, and they have a lot of like players that can change games. It's kind of like how they build their team overall. It looks like I think the biggest thing I want to see, yeah, you're right, is how Barcelona comes out and works all these new pieces in, and is everything settled by then? But honestly, if you think about it, even if it is not, all they have to do is beat Inter. If you're Barcelona, that's probably what you're looking at. I mean, if you're not confident about, how Xavi is going to like be able to get everybody where they're supposed to be and, build the 11 that he wants to regularly go with, I think all they have to do at the end of the day is beat Inter and they'll be able to, even if they're seconds, they're going to be able to go through. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think so. Give me a grade for this group, A, B, C. What do you have for what we ended up with?
Oh, I think it's a solid B from the standpoint that I think it could have been a little bit easier if those are looking for the easiest route as an A. I like the matchups. I like watching matches against these sides. So, I'm intrigued by the Rangers. I'm not going to lie. I'm intrigued for the sights, the scenes, and I think we'll beat them in both matches. So Ajax, again, probably would have been my second or third choice out of the top group. So I don't think you can really complain about your draw when you don't get matched up against a Real Madrid, a PSG. I think if you had gotten Bayern, PSG, or Real, you're basically knowing that you could win that group, but you have to qualify at the worst as second. Where I think in this group, you go into it confident that you are the favorite and that it will take some serious turned results for you not to be able to advance. And if we learned anything last year in all the knockout competitions that we excelled in, it's get us to knockout football. And it is harder for opponents to beat us, I think, than it is for us to beat opponents. From the way we play, the way we can do things on a balance, the way we can score on the road. The road goals going away actually hurts us as a side.
I think so, yeah.
It equalizes because we're not afraid to go on the road and score 2 and then really put pressure on someone to have to score 3 at Anfield, which is difficult. So I still feel great. I think we move forward, and I think it was about as good of a draw as we could have had.
Yeah, I think B is fair. It could have been better instead of like Napoli. Maybe if you got, I don't know, like even like Benfica or Salzburg or Sporting, like a Portuguese team where they play open. But I think it's pretty solid overall. So I think B is more than fair. Alan says, so we can mention this item. Ian Rush and Ian Snowden paid their respects on behalf of Liverpool Football Club and Everton at King's Heath Avenue earlier today. Rest in peace, Olivia, age 9, shot to death. I can't imagine, anything, obviously, any killing, anything like that is senseless. But I think it's fair to say that when it's a kid, it kind of is like 10 times worse. And it's just, mindless. But yeah, that's a bad.
Thank you for sharing that, Alan. Yeah. I wasn't aware of that yet. I hadn't seen
I was not either, to be honest with you. No.
Anyone who's listening to this podcast knows we have some opinions on, gun school shootings and different things that have happened here on our borders, so the fact that it's happening over there, it doesn't make it any different. And, good on Ian Snowden and Ian Rush for, representing the 2 big football clubs, because the clubs really do mean a lot in the city, and their support of any cause always makes the cause get that much more attention, which is unfortunate. Just like here in America, it takes an athlete to say something to get a bunch of people riled up instead of just a good, honest citizen saying the same thing. I feel for Olivia's parents and all the people who loved Olivia that they have to go through this today. Good on Ian Rush and Ian Snowden. But, if we put our real kind of thoughts in the minds of the people who need it, it's the family and friends of the deceased. And it's just so terrible. So our thoughts will be with them.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It's just, I don't think you can even comprehend probably till it happens to you, and hope, never happens to anybody. It's just, just crazy. I knew most of today was going to the Champions League, so we're not going to be able to. Oh, geez, I don't know about this incident at all. Alan says both parents were shot as well. I was not aware of this incident at all. I think, I hate to say it, as sad as it is, without getting political, I think those kinds of things we take a lot normal over here. I know I live in Chicago. If you turn on local news, which I avoid like the plague, but it's nothing but like shooting here, shooting there, 3 people, 2 people, 1 people. It really does not make like major news if it's like under 10, sadly, in the US.
Yeah, and I think it's similar over there too, though, Timucin. If I used to get daily updates from the Echo when I felt they were a credible news source that actually gave me articles each day. Now I get clickbait delivered to my inbox from them, so I appreciate that, Liverpool Echo. But I would never be blown away, but I would be kind of shocked at what I would read on the front page of the Echo when I would click the link. This drug violence here, these shootings here, 5 stabbed there. And when I went over to Liverpool in May, I did see the city as, beautiful and cultural. And I also saw it as areas that became dangerous and unruly. And sometimes it was the same area. And I'm sure you run into that in Chicago. There are places you can go during the day that you get caught up at 7, 8 at night. It is an absolutely different environment and kettle of fish, to steal an American line that our European followers won't have an understanding for. But that's okay, because I didn't understand what it meant to cover yourself in glory for years. And then I realized it was an insult. But
like, whoops.
I was like, I said it one time and my buddy's like, that is not cover yourself in glory, right? I was like, Oh yeah, they always say it when a goalie throws it in his own net. Thanks, De Gea. I figured it out now. But the things you learn. But I do think that we've become desensitized to this. And maybe it's more national news, more local news, Twitter and immediate news sources. Maybe it's the fact that, when I was a kid, there would be 5 major shootings every 2 or 3 years. And now we seem to have one a month. And they always hinge on the same things, and then nothing changes, just a lot of thoughts and prayers. So I'm not going to pass any thoughts and prayers out, but just say change has to happen. It has to happen on every border in the entire world. People just got to stop being assholes and doing things like murder. And I don't know what caused this, but the fact that parents are dead and a 9-year-old is no longer here and getting ready for like school next week is just disgusting, saddening, and it is something that should be recognized. And again, I thank Alan for bringing it to our attention so we could at least acknowledge it from a club to have
it's
today.
Definitely something that, once we're off air over here, I'll look into more and like read the story too. Because like I say, I was not aware of it, but that's what I mean. It's sad that things like this can, an injury pops up and we all know about it. But I think it's because sadly they happen so much, it just becomes like regular news, especially here in Chicago. I can definitely tell you that. Well, tomorrow is the game. We'll be doing a pre-match over here on American Scouser once the lineups come out. So we'll be able to talk a lot about the game then. So I kind of figured like this morning we would focus on Champions League. But give me a prediction for tomorrow real quick, what you expect out of the game, score-wise, play-wise. What kind of a game are you expecting? I mean, the lineup, I think we, for the most part, know.
I think we know it. I mean, I still don't understand this Keita thing. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if he's fawning an injury to move, if he's available and he's trained. Like, we get no answers anymore about it because I think Klopp knows all he can do is step in it because it could change any moment. And I think that's probably our answer of no comment is he's not going to play.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll assume I actually feel like we'll get Fab, Hendo, and Elliott. I don't love that, to be honest, because I always kind of question Henderson on the left-hand side. Outside shot to see Carvalho start maybe, but I'll bank on Bobby, Diaz, and Mo up top. And I just think that we win the match 3-0. I don't think it'll be beautiful, free-flowing football, but the back has to be better. And I said all week I thought Simicast would start. I'm going to stick with that. I think he starts. If he doesn't, he'll definitely start Wednesday. But I would personally start him in this match and take it from there. And that would be my kind of 3-0, not beautiful. I just don't think Bournemouth poses enough of a threat to hurt us at the items and areas we've shown to be weak at this moment.
Yeah, I was hoping to catch more of the story about what was said in the press conference today, but we'll probably find out a lot more about that. I'm sure he'll be asked about Keita. Let's see how he danced there on that in the press conference today. But we'll be on tomorrow before the game and after the game to talk about it. Hopefully a win. I just want to see the Liverpool of old back, get a bit more of our mojo back and kind of the confidence, because they're currently playing like a team that lacks it. So hopefully we'll get to see that change tomorrow. Well, Gally, time for the second cup as always. Thank you for hopping on. Sales call. So when you turn yourself in and say here, and then 2 minutes later you're on air, isn't that like a dangerous for long-term?
There is a reason. There is a reason that I go by like a stage name.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. See, I work,
and it's also because none of the people that I work with actually give two tosses about my personal life or what I do on my downtime. And I think I got like 4 or 5 total football fans in the folks that we work with. And don't worry, Alan, I'll make sure and get an insult in.
Yes,
Brendan Rodgers, by this time on Tuesday, you will have lost another match, 2 more players, and you will be about a month and a half from hoping that the new manager that comes in will want to rent your house. So at least that doesn't have to go off the market as well.
Yeah, not that we're bashing on Brandon, but I feel like, Chelsea is going to take out that Leeds thing on Leicester City. They play tomorrow as well, right? Yeah, tomorrow, same time as us, I believe, right?
I think
Yes.
that's why we're on Peacock.
Yeah, they're playing same time kickoff with us. So yeah, not that we're bashing Brandon, but that will happen. I think Chelsea is going to make. That could be time to reminder people, go fix your fantasy teams. It might be a good week to throw some Chelsea players on there this week. Okay, Gally, we'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully pre-match or post-match. I don't know what your availability is going to be, but we'll definitely be here in one form or another. Have a great rest of your Friday. Thank God it's freaking Friday. Have a good day, everybody. See you guys.